Hello everyone, welcome to another installation video, and in today's video we will be working on installing the tint film on this Civic hatchback. So let's get started with the installation video. Alright everyone, so before proceeding with installing the tints on your taillight, we have to make sure that the actual taillight itself is clean and doesn't have any dirt or any just bugs or anything that may have contaminated the taillight. So first, we clean it with soapy solution. Just make sure it's clean of dirt. All right. And with this installation, we recommend you starting the install on this side of the taillight first. So when it comes to the design, we made it specifically to fit on each side of the taillight. So with this one, we're going to start off with the side of the hatch, which will be right here, and then as we go by, we're gonna implement the other ones as we go. So like any other tint, we want to make sure we have tacky solution and soapy solution. So soapy solution is just so you could spray on the lens and spray on the film. That way you have the ability to move the film around and adjust it to where you want it to be positioned. So in this case, this part, to start off, we just want to align it first to the edge of the lens of the taillight. So put the film as far as where the end of the lens ends, and then from there just try to align it. If you feel it does get stuck, just remove the film and add soapy solution again, just so you can have more freedom to move. So as you can see with this one, we want to make sure it's towards the edge of the tail light. So we just want to align it as close to it as possible. And then from there, we would grab our tacky solution. That way we tack down one side first. And then once this side is tacked down, we stretch the other portion of the film until it meets the corner of the lens. So we want to start off this side. Just squeegee as much water as possible. And then just make your way out, removing all the liquids that are in the back of the film. Once you have the film in place and you know it's not going to move, we grab the other part. And remember, use slip solution, that way it's easy to maneuver. So place it, and it should line up to this portion of the lens, and you just stretch it to how far the lens meets. So right about there. And then just to make sure it tacks down, just apply a little bit of tack solution. That way it sticks and it doesn't move. While that's there, just continue removing any excess liquid from the water that we applied. So once you're done with this part, we will let it heal or dry. Usually I recommend to let this dry. We recommend starting on the other side of the tail light and doing the same process that you did here to the other side. But for the purpose of this video, we're just going to continue on with doing the next step, which will be working on the top portion of the tail light itself. And as usual, just grab your soapy solution and also spray it on the lens. And with this one, you have to be very, you could say, cautious, because with this one, you have to sort of anchor it in 3 different spots. So the first spot we're going to work on to place it and anchor it will be this top portion of the lens. So when you place it, just make sure you align it to where the lens ends. So somewhere roughly around there. Once you have it in place, just grab your squeegee and remove any water that may be in the back. If you see that it's not sticking well, You can also use your Tacky Solution to help it stay in place. So once it's in place, you're gonna feel that it doesn't move. So just remove the water. So once that's done, the next step for this particular film, you would have to align it or stretch the film towards the end of the other side of the lens. So with this right now, as you notice, it's a little stuck on the lens. You just remove it, add your slip solution. That way you have more freedom to move the film. So with this one, you're gonna stretch it until it meets the other end of the lens. And with this one, we made it so it overlaps to the other tint. So make sure the first step, just to make sure we stretch it. Once we have it in place where we want the film to stay, just lift up a bit of the material, add your Tacky Solution, and just hold it in place for a bit. That way the Tacky Solution starts making the adhesive on the back of the film stay in place. And then with your squeegee, just help it remove any liquid that's in the back. All right, so once this is tacked down and you squeegee as much water as possible, then the next step would be to align this part of the tint to the edge over here. So as mentioned before, the film is going to overlap to the other film which we installed in the beginning. It's going to overlap just a bit, but it's meant to be overlapped because we need to stretch it in order to remove any fingers that it may sum up here. So once we have it here, we make our way this way. So remember, just stretch it, and if it gets stuck, add soapy solution. So remember, as mentioned, it is going to overlap the tint. So it's just going to overlap roughly around there. So you have to stretch it. Somewhere there. And just make sure it aligns to this, to the tail light. And then to help it stay in place, use your Tacky Solution. And with your squeegee, just help it stay in place. Now while this is healing here, we work on this side. So with this part, we could just add soapy solution again, just to help us out in stretching the material downward. So it's just adding a bit. And like that, it gives us that liberty to stretch the material. As you can see, as I'm going down, the finger itself is going to disappear. So as mentioned, it has to overlap this film. So once you have it in place, again, Tacky Solution. And then start squeegeeing. I'm just removing it real quick just to make sure it overlaps, because if it doesn't overlap, then it's going to be meeting halfway, and then over time, because of that little gap that it might have, it might accumulate dirt, and we don't want that, because then the tint will start losing its adhesive, and it's going to start lifting little by little. So as mentioned, we have to make sure it overlaps. And then from there, just let it heal. Like I said in the beginning, we usually, after we install this part, we would go to the other side. That way we let this part heal and dry up. And then once we finish over there, we would come back to this side. So then the next step would be to install the last portion, which is this right here. So this one's more simple. It's just placing it, aligning it to the little gap that this taillight has. And then just, it should align perfectly with the tint itself. And remember to always apply slip solution on the film and on the lens. And from there, remember, just align it with that first. Aligning the, so align the film with this part of the taillight, because there's a little design that they made for the taillight. So just align it there. Once you align it, make sure it's straight to the taillight as well on the edge. So roughly around there. And again, your Tacky Solution. And then just to help it heal just a bit faster, use your heat gun or hair dryer or blow dryer, whichever you have, and just around the taillight, go around, help the adhesive activate more faster. It also helps with removing any wrinkles or any fingers that it may have. So it's important to always remove as much water as possible. If not, then you're gonna have the water stay on the film and it's gonna add this bubble. So always make sure you squeegee out as much water as possible. All right, while we let this heal, then we would start with the next side of the taillight, which would be this portion right here. This one's a bit more simple. You just need to align it to this part first, and then once you align it to the edge of the lens, and you work your way on top, and then to the other side, which would end right here. Same procedure again, just add your slip solution on the film, add it on the lens. And like I said, make sure you align the bottom portion first. So make sure the bottom is aligned to the lens and to this side as well. So somewhere there. So with that, just with your squeegee and Tacky Solution, spray and remove all the water that was in the back. Alright, and like I said, this one's simple, pretty simple. Just make sure to remove all the water. Once that's done, you'll work with the last piece, which is this the center piece right here of the taillight. So that one's pretty simple. We will start off on this end or this end, doesn't really matter. But for this video, we'll just start it off here. Align the edge of the film to the edge of the taillight, and just make your way across. With this part, you will have to stretch it. You'll see what I mean in a minute. It's going to end over here. You would just stretch it just a bit, and then Tacky Solution just to help it stay in place. So let's get started. And then just follow bang. Make sure you have your solution and your texture. Center around the taillight. So there. As you see to the end, so I'm pointing the next part here. Take down. Let's slide down. Yeah, sure. Alright, so once this is space, then you're here. So you want your stretch material because it has a close picture. So we're going to just Tacky Solution and just place it and stretch. Once you have this, you want the film in, you get the end portion of the film. Just have your texture. I would see in place. And there we go. And you have this. And you continue to use. You need to move it. Just move it. Tacky Solution. All right, everyone. So once you finish installing the tints on your taillight, this is how the final look will look on your vehicle. So with that being said, if you guys do have any comments or questions after the installation, feel free to leave a comment below or send us a message directly and we'll answer as best as possible. And until next time, you guys, take care.